When you're a child, you depend on your guardians. When you get older and start making your own money, you're not supposed to depend on anyone. You're supposed to be independent. But if you fall on hard times and can't be independent financially, you do end up depending on someone, be it a loved one, or a friend, or some weird precarious housing situation you happened into because you're tired of being homeless. At this point, you're a dependent again, kind of like when you were a child. The strange thing about this situation for me is the only reason I end up dependent on anyone is because I'm trying to conform to the world that they're pressuring me to conform to. I've lived very frugally to the point of not needing money at all, so the fact that I couldn't be financially independent didn't mean that I couldn't be independent, because I could still find resources, I could still feed myself. I even found shelter. I've even made shelter out of wooden pallets. I can go fishing. I have a fishing rod now. I know all the good dumpsters to get whatever food I want. I'm learning more and more about foraging, collecting acorns, cattails, and always careful to never overfish and never over forage. Try to spread the seeds a little more and everything. So as far as I'm concerned, I am independent, but I don't fit the image of I have a job, I pay the rent, I live in a house. So I have people in my life who pressure me to conform to these things, like my parents and other loved ones, even some friends who just, they feel worried about me since I'm homeless. But every time I try to conform to the system, it's just too difficult, and I can't do it, and my life falls apart. So my life falls apart when I do try to conform, but when I don't, I'm actually doing pretty well. Even though other people keep saying that that's when it looks like my life is falling apart, and they think I'm doing better when I'm in a house, when I'm just suffering and I feel like I'm just stuck in a bad situation. For me, a big part of the problem is I don't want to live in a way that puts other people out. For instance, I've squatted a house before, and to me, that is morally okay, because the house was owned by a bank. For starters, I did not squat a house that's owned by a person. And if you did that, I could see some cases where that's okay if they're like some billionaire that's evil or something. But I don't really, there's plenty of bank foreclosures. That is what I would want to take, not some person's house. And then I shared that space with others. So not only did I take land back from the bank, but I also helped other people live indoors. And that all felt morally okay with my value system, because I don't want to perpetuate rich and poor and capitalism and destruction, and some people are overeating, some people are starving to death. But since I don't fit the image and I have so much pressure on me all the time to conform, and periodically my life is unstable, so things fall apart, relationships get weird, and there's drama among homeless people or something. Eventually, at some point, I feel pressured to try to conform. I move into a house, because the first step is always to move. You can't even look clean enough to get a job while you're homeless, or it's very difficult. You can't watch all your stuff if you're not allowed to bring it all into your employment place, and they might be like, what the hell is all this? Oh, I didn't know you were a homeless person, and then find some reason to fire you or whatever. So there's so many steps to get out of being just looking homeless and not looking the part, looking like you're not conforming, that it usually starts with someone giving you a place to stay. So you have a shower, you have laundry, and now you maybe have a chance at getting into that pyramid scheme that everyone thinks is so great. But at that point, you've basically gone from being independent to now being dependent on the person you live with. And in my case, since I can't actually uphold all of the expectations, and I'm burdened with this sense of cognitive dissonance and feeling out of alignment with the morality of where I'm living and how I'm living, that I can't function at all. It's like, you can look up the symptoms of cognitive dissonance. It's like brain fog, confusion, can't make decisions, your executive functioning goes out the window. And I'm autistic, so that's part of it. But my executive functioning will get so bad, I can't even make the decision whether to stay or go. But I just feel perpetually like I should do whatever I'm not doing. It's just a horrible contradiction to be stuck in for months on end. And of course, at the basis of it all is this idea like, I know how bad it is to be homeless. I've been homeless. Now I'm paying for a place to live, or I'm living in a place that someone else is paying for. And that does not feel morally okay to me, because then you're participating in this capitalist pyramid scheme, and you're participating in this world where prices are going up, so people are being priced out, homeless population's going up. So more and more people are homeless in this game of musical chairs where they keep taking away more and more chairs. And now I'm just sitting in one of the chairs that hasn't been taken away yet. So I'm just taking a chair from everyone else. And even worse, because I've also squatted, I know that a house can be used to be so much more. You can have travelers coming through. You could have 3 people living in a room if you want. We could house like 16 people with 3-room house. And now I'm in a house with one other person. We have like extra rooms. I feel guilty for all of this, even though I'm not really the one doing it, but I'm benefiting from it now. I've left the struggle. I've like abandoned all my people in the street. I've been put in a position where I actually am more dependent on others than ever. And this is supposedly going to get me independence, because people say this is like how I'm going to get to making my own money. I'm going to get my own job, and then I'll be freedom. But I don't see any freedom, because everything within the capitalist system is kind of gotten at the cost to someone else, externalizing costs on other people. And I feel like I have the skills and they're just going to waste. I could, if I were just to strengthen my resolve and just push myself to do what I used to and just stop using money again and be homeless even though it sucks. You meet more homeless people, you might start squatting again, you might invite more people in, and then I'm actually housing people rather than like scraping by, feeling like a dependent on someone who's not helping, not paying the rent, just being in this permanent position of like a second-class citizen. Whereas in that world, I go and I'm like a hero. I could help like 16 people have a place to live. But then everyone in my normal Housie life is looking at me with disdain and confusion, and they think I'm living in a dangerous environment, and they think I'm doing something wrong, and well, why don't you just get a job? Why don't you just do it in the normal way and your life will be better? But my life will not be better that way. They just keep telling me that until I actually believe them. And then I keep getting stuck in this situation where I'm just dependent on someone and stuck in their house, and I don't know how to transition from there. The weird thing about transitioning back to being homeless when you're in a house is to go from being dependent on one person to going back into the world is like this harsh break. And to put that in perspective, there's like a free food pantry in my city, but I'm getting free food from the person I live with all the time. And so if I were to get free food from the free food pantry, that would be like taking food from people who need it, because I'm not someone who needs it, supposedly, because I'm being fed by someone else. But now if I'm being fed like a bad diet, or they're just giving me McDonald's, or like I'm stuck in this situation where I just have to take what I'm being given, but I'm also like supposed to feel morally bad about going to the food pantry because I already have food. And there's a lot of different ways where it's like, now that you're in a house, even though you don't have money, you feel like you're one of the privileged people, so you feel like you can't extend and make this connection with that world anymore. I can't just go hang out with people at Food Not Bombs and then just be like, yeah, I mean, I live indoors and I don't need food at all. I'm just taking food from people who need it. I mean, Food Not Bombs is a little different because they kind of encourage everyone to just, it's free food, just take it. In my experience, they actually do their best to alleviate that concern. But that concern would persist at most like homeless meals, you know what I mean? I'm not going to go to the sweet homeless breakfast at the nonprofit with the 2 eggs in the bowl of oatmeal and then just be like, oh yeah, I have eggs at home and, you know. So it's very hard, it's very weird to make this harsh break where like everything you depend on is through one person, and then you have to be like, suddenly, I don't know where I'm going to get food, water, I don't know where I'm going to sleep tonight, I don't know where I'm going to go to the bathroom, I don't know where I'm going to shower. Within one day, I'll be like, looking like a crazy, deranged homeless person. I might shit my pants. Like, the first days are so bad. But it seems like how else would you go from being dependent to being interdependent, right? How would you go from being an individual in an individualistic society to being a collective, like a collectivized society, and sharing and being part of the world? Because those don't really jive with each other that well. To put another example, I would go dumpster diving, get a bunch of food for all my homeless friends. And then you meet these people who are like college kids and stuff who want to go dumpster diving because they heard about it and it's like cool and trendy, but they have jobs and money, so it feels weird to like show them where your spot is. And then they start taking food that you actually need from you. And like your homeless friends are like, why did you tell the fucking college kids where our dumpster is? Now there's less food for all of us. Like, you totally messed it all up. And it does feel like, well, yeah, why do they need free food? They have like a financial aid right now and shit, or whatever it is. So then that's another very difficult and weird transition, is if you move into this life where you're no longer dependent on anyone, you're independent in the sense that you can feed yourself and everything, but you're also interdependent in the fact that sometimes you have scarcity, sometimes you have abundance because you live an unstable life. But as a result, it becomes a communal situation where people who have abundance share with people who don't, people who have scarcity ask for stuff, and then later on it'll be switch who has abundance and who has scarcity. So homeless people kind of develop a natural gift economy among each other. Like some guy, I don't know, he just got like someone gave him a pizza and he's like, I can't eat the whole pizza. So he eats like half of it and then he goes around giving out slices to people. That's just how you do it when you're homeless. So then you've transitioned into this like interdependent communal life, and you still have this pressure that is constantly on you. Like everyone's wondering why you're lazy, why are you living this way? Why aren't you being a capitalist? Why aren't you paying rent? And if that ever gets to you and you have to transition back, I mean, it's easy to escape to being dependent in someone's house and then try to work your way up from there. That's why that usually is how it happens. But imagine now just trying to work your way up on your own in the street. What you have to do to maintain an accumulation of capital is to stop sharing. So that's also a very turbulent transition for someone to go through. Now for a lot of people, the first time in their life that they felt community is once they're homeless. Kind of ironic. And now that they have community, they're sharing, they're being shared with, they feel like a part of something for the first time. But if you're ever going to accumulate your own stuff and get yourself off the street, you have to start thinking in terms of like, how do I maximize my self-interest? How do I make money? How do I profit off everything? And then that's weird because you stop sharing with other people. You start penny pinching. You start thinking, I can't just be giving out all my food, you guys. I need to, and you start buying food. Now you have food you bought. You're not going to give people food you bought. That's your hard-earned money, blah, blah, blah. So then you very violently have to like remove yourself from other people. And this, if you're doing this in the same city where you were communal, then you're just trying to be like, fuck everyone, I'm keeping mine, I'm getting what I can for free but giving nothing back. That's how you get off the street. That's what you have to do. And it's weird to like feel it and go through it and be like, is this what everyone has gone through? But they don't know they've gone through that transition because they went straight from dependent as a child to being independent, and they skipped any kind of communal situation in most situations, in most lifetimes. Most people will never know what it felt like to be at Occupy unless they were there. Most people will never know that felt experience, that pain of like trying to cut everyone out of your life, trying to stop sharing with everyone because you're like, I'm going to go make money now, I'm going to pay my own rent, I'm not going to share my space anymore. It just makes no sense. And then you get this weird divide between Housies and homeless, where the Housies are like, you guys are lazy, you guys are fucked up, you guys are... But the homeless have been through this whole experience. They're like, I don't even know if I want to rise out of being homeless, because all that was this fucked up life where all I cared about was myself and I had no community. And so it's this weird widening gap in perspective. And I feel like this is part of why there's more and more people that aren't even trying to get a job anymore. I actually have an article about it that an Olympic gold medalist living in Seattle became homeless and can't get themselves off the street. And one of the main things they talk about is this. I'll link the article in the description. It's like, you've become a part of this community now, and then you're just supposed to tell them all to fuck off and go off and be on your own and go into some house somewhere. And then what do you do? And then you can't really be friends with a bunch of homeless people when you live in a house, because it's just going to be like a train of people in and out of your house all day trying to take a free shower and stuff. Or you don't share anything, but then how could you be friends? They share everything with you, relatively speaking, proportionately with what they have. So then you basically, even if you try to maintain those friendships, they kind of fade. And then you have to like try to be friends with Housies, but you can never really get as close to them as you can to homeless people, because Housies all have their own money, they have their own goals, their own plans, and they don't really connect in that way of the gift economy. They share like petty amounts of stuff symbolically, but like homeless people share enough that the reason they're being kept alive is because they're sharing. It's way more of a bond versus like, oh, I'll give you a Christmas card or whatever. I'll send you some thing I bought from China, that, happy birthday. It's a very shallow form of gift economy in the Housie world. I don't have a clear conclusion here. I just thought it'd be cool to capture this experience and explain it to people. Thanks for listening.